The morning sun poured through the windows of the Wolford family's Maui kitchen, casting a golden glow over the start of their day. Jason, as he did most mornings, sat at the counter scrolling through the latest headlines on his tablet, the aroma of fresh coffee filling the air. Across the room, Allison moved with practiced ease, pouring juice for their kids and setting out breakfast, her mind already on the day ahead. Suddenly, Jason froze, his eyes widening as he stared at the screen. "They did it," he said, voice trembling with disbelief. "The Supreme Court, unanimous, 9-0. They struck down the law." For years, the Wolfords had been at the heart of a legal battle that often felt abstract and far away, until this very moment, when it suddenly became real. The highest court in the land had spoken, and with a single decision, their lives, and the lives of countless others, were about to change in ways they'd only imagined. Allison sat down, stunned, her thoughts racing back to the endless meetings, the stacks of paperwork, and the constant uncertainty that had shadowed their family for so long. The law had made them feel like outsiders, even criminals, simply for wanting to protect their family in public, a right they believed was as fundamental as any other. For the Wolfords, it was never about carrying a firearm everywhere, but about having the freedom to choose, to feel secure, and to exercise a right they felt was guaranteed. This decision felt deeply personal, a validation of their beliefs about self-defense, family, and the meaning of constitutional rights in everyday life. Even the children, though too young to grasp the details, sensed the shift in the room, the relief, the hope, and the quiet joy that replaced years of worry. Jason turned the tablet to Allison, showing her the bold headline, "The Supreme Court's decision," their names right there in the story, proof that their fight had mattered. Alongside their neighbor Adam Kasperzicki and the Hawaii Firearms Coalition, they had challenged a law they saw as government overreach, and, against the odds, they had won. In that quiet Maui kitchen, the Wolfords' morning was suddenly connected to a national event, their story echoing in newsrooms and living rooms across America. The Supreme Court's unanimous ruling was a thunderclap in the ongoing debate over gun rights, sending a powerful message about the limits of state power and the enduring strength of the Second Amendment. For the Wolfords, it was more than just a legal victory. It was vindication, a moment of relief and pride after years of struggle. For the country, it marked a landmark decision, one that would reshape the legal landscape and spark conversations about rights, safety, and freedom for years to come. To truly grasp the Supreme Court's decision, it's important to understand the law that set everything in motion. This law didn't just spark a legal battle. It ignited a nationwide debate about the limits of gun rights and state authority. In 2023, Hawaii passed one of the strictest gun laws in the country. Lawmakers crafted it in direct response to the Supreme Court's Bruin decision, which affirmed that Americans have a constitutional right to carry a firearm outside their home for self-defense. Hawaii's leaders argued their new law was necessary to keep communities safe, but it quickly became one of the most controversial in the nation. The law made it illegal to carry firearms on almost all private property open to the public: stores, restaurants, hotels, and even parking lots, unless the property owner posted a sign specifically allowing guns. This meant that, by default, guns were banned in most places people go every day. This approach flipped the usual rule on its head. Instead of property owners having to put up signs to keep guns out, now they had to put up signs to let guns in. For many, this was a dramatic shift in how gun laws worked. In practice, almost no businesses posted signs welcoming firearms. As a result, the law created what was essentially a near-total ban on carrying guns in public spaces across Hawaii. The law also designated a long list of sensitive places, including parks, beaches, banks, bars, and more, as completely off-limits for firearms, regardless of signage. This list covered many of the most popular and essential public spaces in the state. Critics argued that the law left responsible gun owners with almost nowhere to legally carry their firearms, effectively undermining the very right the Supreme Court had just confirmed in Bruin. Supporters, meanwhile, insisted it was a necessary step to prevent gun violence. For licensed gun owners, the result was a confusing legal minefield. Even simple errands became complicated. as they had to constantly check for signs and worry about accidentally breaking the law. Frustrated by these restrictions, a group of Maui residents decided to challenge the law in court, setting the stage for a major legal showdown that would soon reach the nation's highest court. The challenge to Hawaii's controversial gun law began with a group of ordinary citizens, Jason and Allison Wolford, Adam Kasperzicki, who felt their fundamental rights were being threatened. These individuals, each with their own stories and reasons, decided to take a stand not just for themselves, but for all Hawaiians who value the right to self-defense. They joined forces with the Hawaii Firearms Coalition, a grassroots advocacy group dedicated to protecting Second Amendment rights across the islands. Together they formed a determined coalition, ready to challenge the state's restrictions. After finally obtaining their carry licenses, a process that was already difficult, they discovered the new law made it nearly impossible to actually carry a firearm in public. The restrictions were so sweeping that, in practice, their hard-won licenses meant little. Their argument was clear. Hawaii's law effectively nullified the Supreme Court's Bruin ruling by making public carry illegal in almost every location, undermining the very rights the court had affirmed. The plaintiffs believed that property owners, not the government, should have the authority to decide whether firearms are allowed, using clear and visible signage to communicate their policies. Their case saw an early victory when a federal judge agreed with their arguments and blocked the strictest parts of the law, giving hope to gun rights supporters statewide. But the state quickly appealed, and the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals reversed the decision, siding with the government and upholding the law's broad restrictions. Facing a major setback, the plaintiffs and their legal team decided to take their fight to the highest court in the land. They appealed to the Supreme Court, knowing it was a long shot, but convinced that the conflict with Bruin was undeniable. In October 2025, the Supreme Court agreed to hear the case, signaling the national importance of the issue and raising hopes for a landmark decision. A monumental showdown over the Second Amendment was set, with the eyes of the nation watching what could become a defining moment for gun rights in America. In June 2026, the Supreme Court's decision wasn't a shock, but the 9-0 vote was. Every justice, liberal and conservative, agreed Hawaii's presumptive ban on public carry went too far. Unanimity on such a divisive issue sent a powerful message. This was about constitutional law, not politics. The court reaffirmed that states can't grant a right and then take it away, by banning carry in nearly all public spaces. The majority opinion was clear. Gun regulations must align with the nation's historical tradition. Hawaii couldn't point to any historical precedent for its sweeping ban. A unanimous decision carries immense legal weight, setting a rock-solid precedent. For Hawaii and similar states, the message was unequivocal: your approach is unconstitutional. The court's decision was rooted in the history and tradition test from the 2022 Bruin case. Modern gun laws must have historical parallels from the era when the Second Amendment was ratified. Hawaii's lawyers argued old laws justified their restrictions, but the court disagreed. Historical laws targeted threatening behavior, not peaceful self-defense. The justices found no tradition of banning law-abiding citizens from carrying in public places, unless the owner posted a sign. States can still declare some places, like schools or government buildings, off-limits, but not entire categories of public life. The ruling cements the Bruin test as the standard for all future Second Amendment cases. Now, any new gun law must come with a history lesson to survive in court. The ruling's impact goes far beyond Hawaii. Similar laws in New York, California, New Jersey, and Maryland are now unconstitutional. The legal default has shifted. Business owners must post signs to ban guns, not the other way around. Licensed gun owners can now carry in most public places unless explicitly prohibited. This is a major victory for gun rights advocates and a blow to broad state restrictions. The decision discourages other states from passing similar bans, knowing they'll be struck down. States can still regulate licensing and designate some sensitive places, but only if consistent with history. The debate now shifts to defining what counts as a sensitive place. Future legal battles over the Second Amendment are inevitable. The Supreme Court's decision changes daily life for business owners and gun owners alike. Business owners must now decide and clearly post their firearm policies. This shifts responsibility from government mandate to private discretion. Gun owners must check for signage before entering businesses, or risk trespassing charges. The ruling expands where licensed individuals can legally carry, making self-defense rights practical, not just theoretical. Businesses may now market themselves as firearm-friendly or gun-free, letting consumer choice shape norms. The debate over guns in public moves from state capitals to storefronts. The decision decentralizes the issue, making it part of everyday life. The Hawaii case is the latest in a series of Supreme Court decisions expanding gun rights. It began with 2008's Heller, affirming the right to own a gun for self-defense at home. McDonald versus Chicago extended that right nationwide. For years, courts debated whether the right extended to public carry. Bruin in 2022 confirmed it did, and set the history and tradition test. The Hawaii case affirms and clarifies Bruin, with even liberal justices on board. The court has dismantled barriers to gun ownership and public carry, while upholding some targeted regulations. This unanimous decision sets a high bar for future restrictions. The trend is clear, robust protection for Second Amendment rights. The Hawaii gun law's journey from State House to Supreme Court shows how judicial decisions shape daily life. 9 justices in Washington can change the rules for millions, from Maui to Manhattan. For the Wolfords, the ruling was life-changing. For millions, it redefines public self-defense. Business owners now set their own firearm policies, changing everyday routines. The case highlights the Constitution's enduring power. Laws must yield to fundamental rights. The unanimous decision shows these rights aren't subject to political whims. The Supreme Court's rulings ripple outward, shaping American life for generations. The law isn't just theory, it's something we live every day.